is. Whew. Oh God. Sorry. Sorry about that, folks. And I'm in the middle of a war zone. That's why the lights are off. And I was wearing a pan on my head. I don't have a helmet, so have to improvise. Okay. Sorry. Welcome everybody. Now then. Welcome everybody. As I just explained, I'm in the middle of a war zone, but I'm not gonna let that stop me from doing this reaction video for you. Today I'm doing a trailer reaction to the game Ace Combat 7. And it's out today. So before you buy, you should probably look online to, you know, see what you need to in order to buy it. Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown is the 17th entry in the Ace Combat franchise. It'll be released on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox on January 17th in Japan and Asia, followed by the rest of the world on January 18th. The game will also release on Steam platforms on February 1st, 2019. Pre-order bonuses for the game include 2 older games in the franchise: Ace Combat 5: The Unsung War for the PlayStation 4, and Ace Combat 6: Fires of Liberation. The game is a single-player campaign. Takes place in a strange real in 2019. That's this year. The player character is Trigger, an Ocean Air Defense Force pilot in the Lighthouse War. After Trigger performs a heinous crime, he is sent to the Spare Squadron penal unit. The game's cutscene follows Avril Mead, Dr. Schroeder, and other characters in the war. The game's multiplayer is comprised of two-player versus player modes, team deathmatch, the battle royale. Ace Combat 7 also features virtual reality mode, which will be exclusive to PlayStation VR for the first year of the release. The VR mode includes 3 exclusive missions, featuring Mobius 1, an air show mode, and free flight. The game's single-player campaign and multiplayer modes cannot be played in VR. Too bad. Right. Ace Combat 7 was first revealed in an Ace Combat Infinity data leak in November. In an Ace Com data leak in November 2015. Bandai Namco officially announced the game the next month at PlayStation Experience. The game was first scheduled to be released in 2017, but delayed to 2018 and finally early 2019. Glad it did. Anyway, the synthesis of the game is this: the Lighthouse. Prior to the game's events, the Ocean Federation constructed the International Space Elevator, commonly referred to as the Lighthouse, in the Ocean continent to help reconstruction efforts following the Ulysses 1994 XF-04 planetfall and the Continental War. Tensions rose between Ocean and the Kingdom of Eurasia. First, that country was a fascist. Now it became a kingdom. I wonder how that happened. And as for the Continental War, it was played in Ace Combat 4. You play Mobius 1. And during that time. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, major Ocean country Kingdom of Eurasia, a major Osean country because of Eurasia's suspicions that Osea aimed to control the entire Osean continent through the space elevator. In 2019, Eurasia forces carried out a UAV attack in Osea and simultaneously captured the space elevator and its surrounding facilities. Eurasia also captured the large UAV carrier's arsenal birds defending the space elevator. Eurasia officially declared war on Osea, aiming to resist Osea's interference and resource monopoly. Osea controls one of the most powerful armed forces on the planet, but Eurasia successfully fights back using countless UAVs. Within a short period of time, Eurasia has pushed Osea's influence toward the eastern coast of the Osean continent. In response, Osea began to counterattack from the east while simultaneously performing retribution attacks on Brabante, Eurasian's capital in the west. Trigger begins the war fighting for Osea. Oh, and I almost forgot. Spoiler ahead. In case you don't want to layer this, skip ahead. Sorry. Trigger begins. I forgot to mention that earlier. So sorry. Trigger begins in the war fighting for Osea. They join other Osean and IUN forces in attempting to recapture the space elevator and fight an arsenal bird in the Chompenberg rainforest. However, later in the story, Trigger performs some kind of crime that gets him sent to Osea's penal unit, Spare Squadron. Public opinion began to sway in Eurasia's favor since Eurasia fights cleanly away from civilian areas, while Osea accidentally causes collateral damage. Eurasia's Princess Rosa Cassetta de Elise takes advantage of this in televised appearances. So let's take a look at Trigger. Trigger is a male Osean Air Defense Force pilot and former member of the Mage Squadron. Following, I'm not gonna say it. He is assigned to the following his incident. He was assigned to OADF's panel unit, Spare Squadron. He's the player character in Ace Combat 7, and he's equipped with the F-22A Raptor. The Raptor's a stealth fighter, by the way. The F-22A Raptor, also designated F-22 or F-A-22A, is a fifth-generation air superiority fighter aircraft. The F-22A is notable for its high speed and moderate degree of stealth technology, as well as its use of radar-guided missiles. As an advanced and well-known aircraft, the F-22A has been the aircraft of choice for many Ace Combat protagonists, like me, featured on many game covers and involved in numerous conflicts throughout the series. But as for Osea, I just wonder where the demons of Rosgries are. After all, Ace Combat 5, you play as them. You play as Osea in that again. You pilot Blaze, and you fulfill the Rosgries prophecy and uncover a conspiracy pulling the strings behind the war in Ace Combat 5. But enough about that. Let's get. But I bet that's probably enough introducing of that. Let's get. I got someone on the line with me. Hang on. Oh hey, it's Ace Combat fan, everybody. A YouTube user. He knows more about Ace Combat games than I do. Probably. Yeah, definitely. Anyway, I'm gonna let him take over. He's gonna present to us the story of Ace Combat 7 as explained to new players. It's a two-parter. So be ready. And here, take it. Did you hear all that? Did you hear that, boy? Take it.
You can tell.
Take it away. Take it away, Ace Combat fan.
Oh man, they have this awesome flight shooter game coming out for the PS4, the Xbox One, and Steam. It looks awesome, gameplay looks cool, and the soundtrack looks amazing, but there's only one problem. I haven't played any Ace Combat game yet, so I probably won't understand the story. If that's your case, don't worry, I got your back covered, bro. My name is Ace Combat Fan, and in this video I'll be explaining everything you should know before you play Ace Combat 7. This video will be divided in two parts. The first part is gonna explain the previous games, so you have a better understanding. In the second part, we'll talk more specifically about things that we got to know with the trailers and the gameplay footage, so you have a better understanding of Ace Combat 7. One of the things people think about Ace Combat before playing the game is that it's just a fly shooter, that the story is not important, but as you will see, the story is actually very important. Probably one of the best points in an Ace Combat game, if you ask fans all around. So, enough with all the explaining, let's get this started. Warning, this video contains spoilers from Ace Combat 4, Ace Combat 5 and Ace Combat 0, but not Ace Combat 6, because Ace Combat 6 has this very annoying girl, and I'm just glad she's not back in this game. Alright, so the first thing you have to know is that the Ace Combat games, they take place in this fictional universe of Stranger, which is like a very messed up version of Earth. But there are similarities between the fictional universe and our own planet. One of the examples of these similarities is the countries. In Stranger, we have the Union of the Ukrainian Republics, which is like the Soviet Union. We have the Federation of Ossia, which is going to be a major country in Ace Combat 7, which is basically like the United States, you know, this very large superpower that fights for freedom and burgers. We also have the country of Erusia, or technically the Kingdom of Erusia, which is a mixture between France and Italy, although they don't surrender that easy, or they just don't switch sides, which is a good thing for them, which again is going to be a major country in Ace Combat 7. And lastly, we have the country of Belka, one of the most famous countries in Stranger. So everything begins in the late 80s, where Belka was building this massive military. And what they wanted to do in building this military was defend themselves against Ossia, which is like a nearby country. And so they were spending their money crazy on planes, on laser defense systems, on huge bombers, and all that kind of stuff. But you know what happens when you spend so much money? You get in trouble, financial trouble. And so Belka had this massive economic crisis. And what do you do when you have an economic crisis and you don't want to stop spending on your military? Well, the Belkans thought, hey, we can just sell territory and it'll be all good. So Belka just started selling these massive territories to their neighboring countries in order to make back some money and keep their military strong. Well, that did not help, and the economic crisis continued. Ossia, which is Belka's neighbor, said, hey buddy, what about these natural resources here? Why don't you spend some money in collaboration with me so you can maybe get some money back from the natural resources? Well, Belka spent a lot of money in these plans for mining the resources. Guess what? There were no natural resources there. That was the best Ossian prank of all times. So Belka got really pissed off at Ossia. And in 1995, they find out that the territories that Belka sold, they actually had natural resources. And what does Belka do? They just started invading everyone and get everything back like in this massive blitzkrieg attack, basically World War II. And that is the beginning of Ace Combat 0, where Belka is just invading everyone, using their legendary air force to take over all the natural resources and territories that belong to them. And so one of these territories that they are invading is called the Republic of Ossia, which is a very small country, rather weak, that it was almost taken over in a couple of days. And so what does Ossia do is that, hey, our air force sucks. Let's hire some mercenaries so they can fight for us, and hopefully everything will be good. And that is where Cypher, the protagonist of the game, and Pixie, his mercenary buddy, come along and they help Ossia fight for its freedom. The two of them are members of the GOM Squadron, the 66th Air Force Unit of the 60th Air Division, which you get the reference 666. Basically, so they just fight the war and they make Belka run away from them because they're so good. Like literally one guy can change the tide of the war because, well, it's an Ace Combat game, that's what it happens. And so Belka is now on the defensive because the Allies, they don't want peace. They just want to take back the land from Belka now. They weren't satisfied with just freeing their territory. They started bombing Belka, bombing the civilians, committing all those war crimes, as you know, it happens sometimes in wars. And Belka was just pissed off. Belka was not able to hold the front lines. So what do you think Belka does? A, they keep fighting in the war and hope the tide will change in their favor. B, they ask for peace. C, they develop a new weapon or technology that will help them change the tide of the war. Or D, they just nuke themselves. You have 5 seconds to choose an option. So if you pick D, good job, congratulations, because Belka nuked itself, not just one time, but 7 times.
June 6th, 1995. Maybe their old militaristic leaders couldn't stand the idea of Allied forces invading their land, and declared to the world that the land to the north was the Holy Land of Belka. According to official records, more than 12,000 people died.
And why they did that? Just to casually hold the Allied advance, because, well, you can't trespass a mountainous region that was just nuked 7 times, right? And this detonation of nukes made Cypher's buddy, Big C, go all mentally crazy, and he disappears in the mission. And so the war comes to an end, and everything is like, oh yeah, so good, the war is finally ended, it's gonna be peace now. But hey, Pixie comes back. Actually, he betrays Cypher and becomes a member of A War of No Boundaries, this terrorist organization that wants to abolish and erase all borders, so there are no more conflicts in humanity, because you can't fight for borders if there are no borders. And so their plan is to eliminate the borders by again nuking everyone, just like the Balkans did.
David, you're on launch of V2. Too bad, buddy. This twisted game needs to be reset. We'll start over from zero with this V2. Trust the future to the next generation. This is AWACS. Listen up, Column 1. We've completed analysis of the enemy craft. Codename Morgan. This plane is protected by an ECM defense system. Its only weak point is in the front air intake. You'll have to attack it head on.
And Cypher goes and defeats them, this terrorist organization. And that is the end of Ace Combat Zero. And so you would think that after finishing this World War II, but with 7 nukes, the world would be in peace, no one would want wars, and everything would be a bright and promising future for humanity. Well, that's not really what happened, because this is strange. So, some countries, they discovered there was this big-ass asteroid called Ulysses that was about to hit the planet. So they were wondering, oh man, what can we do now? Like, we thought everything was gonna be good, but now we have to prepare for this massive asteroid that's gonna hit us. So what do you think they do? A, they just pray that the asteroid's not gonna hit them. B, they do some parties to celebrate the end of the war and have fun in the last moments. C, they build some underground shelters to protect them from the impact. Or D, they build large railguns capable of intercepting and destroying the fragments of the asteroid, but they are so big and so large and so complex, they probably won't get ready in time, and even if they do, they can probably be used as anti-aircraft guns that could probably put the region into another conflict after the asteroid hits the planet. Well, it is no surprise that the answer is D. So they built this structure called Stonehenge, capable of intercepting fragments of Ulysses with 8 large turrets, and they did. The asteroid came, and they weren't that successful, but they did destroy some fragments. So there were these large fragments of the asteroid still hitting the planet and killing a bunch of people, destroying infrastructure, houses, little cats, everything you can imagine. And so once more the world of Stranger became a chaos where there was hunger, poverty, refugees. The refugee situation was so bad, in particular the continent of Usia, this one right here, It was basically like the Syrian refugees times 10,000. It was bad. It was bad. And so the countries organizing UCA were like, hey, let's all do our part. And so, Erusia, you're a big power, right? You take more refugees. And they kept pushing refugees. Erusia, get more. Get more, Erusia. You can do it. You can do it, bro. But then Erusia wasn't that happy. And they said, no, we don't want any more. Enough is enough, seriously. And so Erusia built the wall so the refugees couldn't come in. And the other countries got pissed, like, hey Erusia, you're such a good country. You have the industry. Go accept more. If you don't, we're gonna start economic warfare on you. We're gonna stop buying your goods. We're gonna do other sanctions. You're not gonna get the raw materials. We're gonna mess you up if you don't take the refugees. Dude, Erusia was not happy. So what did they do? They just attacked and got Stonehenge and started using it as an anti-aircraft gun. So they could say, no, we're not getting more refugees. Although they kind of went overboard and invaded pretty much the entire continent.
4 years after the planetfall of the Ulysses 1994 XFO4 asteroids, Stonehenge, the Erusian weapon of mass destruction, was originally built to shoot down asteroids. Upon discovering its potential as an anti-aircraft weapon, the Erusians ruled the skies over the mainland. The ISAF's attempts to destroy Stonehenge through airstrikes failed. As a result, strategic positions on the mainland were lost. This in turn forced ISAF to evacuate from the east coast to North Point.
And this is the beginning of Ace Combat 4, where we play as Mobius 1, leader of the Mobius Squadron and part of ISAF, the Independent States Allied Forces, or basically these bunch of countries that got invaded by Erusia. Now the one thing that is interesting about Ace Combat 4 is that Mobius 1, he fights single-handedly, that is, without any wingmen towards, recapturing or freeing the continent of Usia. And one of the most important points in Ace Combat 4 is his rivalry between Mobius 1 and the Yellow Squadron, Erusia's elite fighter squadron, whose task is to defend Stonehenge against enemy air attacks.
A freeway under construction in a wheat field outside of town. When they started construction, I remember how the mayor bragged about it, even though it would completely bypass our town. The freeway became the occupation force's makeshift runway, and the unfinished tunnels their bunkers. This was their base. They were the elite flight squadron chosen to protect the cannon. Ironically, the same cannon that was created to shoot down the asteroids became a catalyst to the war. But when the Allied attacks no longer came, the squadron was assigned long-range missions that took them to distant battlefields.
However, needless to say, Mobius 1 goes there, destroys Stonehenge, and there's this epic fights between him and the Yellow Squadron. Most importantly, between him and Yellow 13, who is the leader of the Yellow Squadron. And you might think the Yellow Squadron are like, just a bunch of bad guys, but actually, that's not really the truth. Yellow 13 is actually a nice guy.
I believe it was their custom to call a pilot an ace once he shot down 5 planes. After completing the day's review, the same guy, the squadron adjutant, went on to announce, "And now, for our leader's results." Everyone turned around to look at the quiet man who sat alone, strumming a guitar. I found myself drawn to the music from his guitar. Our Yellow 13 bagged 3 more today, bringing his new tally up to 64 kills. The pillar of their group, 13 exuded an air of invincibility. He always chose to fly a 5-plane formation. He was a man who prided himself not on his kill record, but on his record of never losing a squadron member.
He's so nice that you actually feel bad when he gets shot down. And that happens in the siege of Farbani when ISAF has fought all over the continent and finally gets the Erusian capital, which is in Farbani. And so they have this fight there, Mobius 1 is there, destroys the Yellow Squadron, and the war is almost over. However, some young Erusian officers, they end up escaping from the capital and they go to Megalith, this secret facility that houses ICBMs packed with nukes. And their goal is just to nuke everyone back again just for retaliation, because why not? And so Mobius 1, in the last mission of the game, he is dispatched towards Megalith to destroy that facility. Just check this out. Now you tell me if there's any game that has a better intro for a mission than like that. But of course, our Lord and Savior Mobius 1 goes there and destroys Megalith, and that is the end of the Second Elysian Continental War in the year of 2005. But the story of Erusea doesn't end there, because in the next year of 2006, there's this movement called Free Erusea, whose goal is to free the country of Erusea from the ISAF interim government and restore its independence. ISAF, on the other hand, it draws up another operation called Operation Katina, whose goal is to destroy Free Erusea. And who do they call to participate in this operation? Of course, our Lord and Savior, Mobius 1.
Welcome back. Here is your current sitrep. Thanks to the valiant efforts of Mobius Squadron and the ISAF, Erusea accepted the terms of surrender and the Continental War came to a close. However, militant factions led primarily by high-ranking officers of the Erusian Air Force have refused the disarmament order. They're now calling themselves Free Erusea, and the strength of their resistance increases daily. Free Erusea have called for steadfast resistance from the remaining forces in each area, and have finally succeeded in capturing an old military factory, acquiring a large quantity of weapons.
And this all happens in the arcade mode of Ace Combat 5. Mobius 1 goes there single-handedly and destroys pretty much everyone. And as far as we know, that is the end of the story for Erusea prior to Ace Combat 7. And now, let's talk about Ace Combat 5.
Red alert! I was in the sky, trying to get the training team in my viewfinder from the rear seat of the lead plane. My pilot in the front seat was howling at the earth below.
Give me a break. I'm babysitting nuggets up here. Command room to War Dog Squadron. We have leakers, aircraft type unknown. Crossing the border, Keith Landers, bearing 278 to 302. Captain Bartlett, your flight is the only group close enough to make the intercept. Baker, Svensson, go trail and stay close. The three of us will go high and engage the bandits. All other aircraft stay low and out of the fight.
Ace Combat 5 takes place in the year of 2010, where the world was in peace. And you know, even the countries of Oceania combining the two superpowers, they had a Cold War before, but now they were just like acting like friends. It was all chill, bro. It was all good. However, because it was so good, Oceania decided just to slash their military budget because they didn't need it. And they just poured all that money into space development and all that kind of stuff. However, some unknown fighters start entering Ocean airspace and causing some trouble. And that is where the events of Ace Combat 5 start. We play as Blaze, member of the War Dog Squadron of the Ocean Air Defense Force, and our job in the very beginning of the game is, to investigate and take care of these intruding enemies that are just penetrating our airspace. As a matter of fact, already in the second mission of the game, our Captain Bartlett that is, gets shot down, and what happens is, Blaze becomes the flight leader, and then he has to protect Oceania from all these incoming enemy planes.
Warning still in effect. Keep your heads on a swivel. Watch out, Nagasaki. They're down below us, too. Leave that to the rescue team. Refuel and rearm at the base. And get back declared war on us.
Which, as we find out, is an initiative by the country of Yuktobania, which declared war on Osea shortly after. And so they have these massive Pearl Harbor surprise attacks against Osea, and of course, War Dog has to get there and save their forces, including the aircraft carrier Castro that is attacked right in the beginning of the game. But of course, War Dog is there, they save the Castro, they save Osea from many other invasions from Yuktobania, and they even find out that Yuktobania has these two submarine aircraft carriers capable of launching ballistic missiles, known as the Synfaxi and the Rimfaxi, and so it was a bad spot for Osea. So the conflict between Osea and Yuktobania ends up escalating, and although Yuktobania tried to invade Osea and didn't work out, now it's time for Osea to invade Yuktobania on Operation Barbarossa on steroids. So Osea goes there, it does its own Normandy beach landing and starts invading Yuktobania with a massive army. Really, it was big like you have no idea. But the one interesting thing is that although Osea is this massive superpower, they were relying basically on only one squadron, which is the War Dog Squadron, to win all their major battles for them. Now, one of the things you should know about Ace 1-5 is that it's a very peace-promoting game, and the members of the War Dog Squadron, even though they're fighting against all the odds that they have, they're still fighting for peace, and they want to find a solution for this war between Osea and Yuktobania. So what happens is, they find out that the war between Osea and Yuktobania had actually been caused by Belka, which was that country they defeated in Ace Combat Zero that I mentioned before. And so they find out that Belka is just creating this war between the two countries just for revenge because it was just a prank. And then the War Dog Squadron tries to tell the truth to all the people who are involved in the conflict, but they find out that the Belkans had infiltrated both the Osean and Yuktobanian armies.
Is that really true? Bartlett turned out to be a spy. So, who are you really? This way! Arrest them on sight! They're spies! Shoot them if you have to!
I don't know who it is, but someone's trying to widen the rift between the two countries and keep this war going. If Osea continues to win, then the war will be over.
And they're after us to prevent that? You're kidding!
You people are the pillar of morale for the entire Osean army now.
However, the War Dog Squadron managed to escape from their base using some trainer jets, and to make their escape plan, they even ditched their planes in the middle of the sea, so the Balkans think that they were shot down. But then when you think everything was lost, the members of the War Dog Squadron, they get rescued by guess who? The aircraft carrier Castro, which they helped right in the beginning of the game. And from then on, the War Dog Squadron starts to operate from the carrier Castro in some ghost operations, to try and restore the peace between the two countries. From this stage on, they receive a new name called the Rosgrees and even a new emblem as part of their secret operations. And they go on to rescue some key people to find an end to the conflict and to punish the Balkans who created all the conflict just because it was a prank. In the end, both Osea and Yuktobania make the peace. However, the Balkans still had some plans to them. The Balkans had controlled a satellite capable of shooting weapons of mass destruction, basically nukes, that they wanted to destroy all the two countries just for the fun of it. However, Rosgrees goes there and destroys them and pretty much saves the world. And that is the end of Ace Combat 5.
Rosgrees returns, this time as a great hero.
So this leaves us with a 9-year period from the end of Ace Combat 5 to the beginning of Ace Combat 7. How the events play out, we're not so sure about that. Osea is this massive superpower, and it's sad that Osea built this space elevator in this period in the continent of Usea, something that Erusia did not like very much. And Erusia from the end of Ace Combat 4 was just this government under ISAF rule because they lost the war. how they became a kingdom, because they were fascists in the beginning. We don't know yet, but we're gonna see more details in Ace Combat 7. You get the broad perspective. I will talk more about this transition from the other Ace Combat games to the new Ace Combat games in part 2 of this video, and I hope you have enjoyed. If you have the chance, please do take a look at the Ace Combat stuff and lore. I put the link in the description. You can find like some helpful links, even for you new players. It's gonna be perfect for you. Hope you have enjoyed. If you want to learn more about Ocean and Erusia in more detail than I just mentioned, you can check these 2 videos here. They are basically documentaries about these 2 countries. Hope you have enjoyed, that you learned something, and thank you for watching, and see you guys next time.
Part 2 coming up.
Hello Aces and welcome to part 2 of the story of Ace Combat 7 explained to new players. In part 1, which you can watch it right here and I recommend you to do so, I did a quick summary of what happened in the previous games such as Ace Combat 4, Ace Combat 5 and Ace Combat 0, so you get a little bit of more of a background on what happened there. Now I did get the question of what happened about Ace Combat 6, do I need to know about that game? The answer is you don't need to care about Ace Combat 6, the story has nothing to do with Ace Combat 7, most likely. And thank you so much for your support. I know many of you guys did enjoy that video, and I'm making, of course, part 2, as I promised. Now, I know it's been over a year since I posted part 1, and I know I apologize for the procrastination, but that was kind of intentional, so I could get more details on the story, the main themes, the characters, and the missions of Ace Combat 7 to make this video, because the release date is also very close. It's good to have that refresher or introduction to the new players right before you get the game, right? So let's get started with part 2, where I'll talk about specifically the events in Ace Combat 7. Now the thing you should know about Ace Combat 7 is there are actually 2 story modes. The regular game, which is, you know, the big story of all the characters and so on, and also the VR mode, which is more of a very short story, very condensed. But let's start with the VR mode, because that happens before the main events of the game. So the VR mode, which is only available on the PlayStation 4, it takes place in the year of 2014 in the continent of Eusia, again in the fictional planet of Strangero. Now, if you recall from part 1 of this video, I mentioned that the country of Erusia, after they lost the war back in Ace Combat 4, was occupied by ISAF, basically the Allies, because no one really trusted Erusia, because maybe they could start a war again, at least in the near future. But there was a group involved that was trying to regain the independence of Erusia and try to get rid of the occupation from the Allies in the few years after the war. And this movement was called Free Erusia, obviously. And they came back in Ace Combat 5 in the arcade mode, but guess what? The story mode of Ace Combat 7 in the VR, it's Free Erusia strikes again. And who do you call when you need help and kicking some Erusian ass? Our Lord and Savior, Mobius 1, who is the protagonist of Ace Combat 4, and he also appeared in the arcade mode of Ace Combat 5, and he will be the playable character now in Ace Combat 7's VR mode. One notable difference between Ace Combat 7's VR mode and the previous games is that Mobius 1 is not affiliated with the ISAF anymore, which used to be a coalition of countries inside the Eusian continent. Now, he's part of the International Union of Peacekeeping Forces, basically, you know, like the UN peacekeepers, and they have been deployed to the continent of Eusia, you know, just to be on standby against any threats, and which did happen, obviously, because Free Erusia is back at it again. In terms of story on the VR mode, don't expect too much. There are no cutscenes, because they can't really do that in VR, it's just complicated. So the story is mainly given to you during the briefings and debriefings of each mission. For mission 1, Mobius 1 is informed there's a flight of unknown aircraft, and as you know, every time we have an unknown aircraft in Ace Combat, it's an enemy. You know you're gonna have to shut it down. So basically you have to get in touch and intercept this unknown formation of enemies, which include bombers and attackers, and protect your airbase from their attack. That's basically mission 1, where you talk to AWAC Sky Eye, which is a callback from Ace Combat 4, and some other pilots who have call signs similar to ones in Ace Combat 4. So you get a little bit of nostalgia from that. There isn't much detail on the story or development in the VR mode. It's relatively simple. You're gonna shoot the enemies down. That's it. In the second mission of the VR mode, you're taking off from your base that is under attack from enemy fighters, and you have to just basically scramble while everything is blowing up. Like, it's fine. It's fine to take off. Like, look at this. Yeah, it's not fine, but you do it anyway. So basically, you help to repel the attack from Free Rouge on your base, and then you have to protect a substation from enemy attacks, because that substation provides electricity to your base, which is necessary to keep your radars and your automatic defense systems up, and you're gonna mop up the enemies there. Basically, that's it. There is still a third mission, which I don't know the details yet, and I am unsure how it's gonna be the end. I'm not sure if they're gonna add some VR missions later on, maybe via DLC. But basically, that's the story of the VR mode. There's not much character development. It's basically you just go there. It's very simple. It's pretty arcadey. And with that said, now it's time to talk about the non-VR story of the game. There's quite a bit to cover, including the prelude, including the countries, the characters, and some of the missions, including Mission 1, Mission 2, Mission 3, Mission 6, and Mission 7, and some of the things we have seen in the trailers, some gameplay footage, and also some interviews with journalists. Of course, since I'll be explaining this story, there will be some spoilers, but they're already out there on the internet. If you're following the news, you might have seen them. And most of them are pretty much related to the early game, so it's not something that I personally think will affect your overall experience, you know, especially with whatever plot twists they're gonna have in the mid to late game. So the main events of Ace Combat 7 take place in the year of 2019 in a conflict known as the Lighthouse War. In one side of the ring we have the Ocean Federation, this massive, huge superpower, you know, very rich, very industrialized, with a very large military that was the main protagonist back in Ace Combat 5. And of course, they love freedom way too much, and then you can say that's basically the United States in Ace Combat. And on the other side of the ring we have the Kingdom of Erusia, which was the antagonist back in Ace Combat 4. And Erusia is more like, you know, like a mix of France and Italy, although they don't surrender that easily, and they don't switch sides because they don't have anyone else to switch. And that's kinda what Erusia is really. So the story of the game begins when OSA decided they want to make a space elevator, or rather build one. Now, we don't really know what was the reason. I do personally believe it was just to explore space, because the space elevators, they make it really cheap to go to space, and they decided to do that between the years of 2011 and 2019. Now, the interesting thing is, you know, OSA is this very rich, very large country, and instead of building the space elevator in their own country, they decided, I'm gonna build right here. And if you don't like it, sucks to be you, because I'll be putting some extra security that will never be stolen or used against me. First, of course, I'm gonna deploy several of my military forces across the continent so no one can threaten me under the name of the United Nations Peacekeeping Forces or the United Union Peacekeeping Forces. And just because I want to put some more high-tech stuff, I'm gonna make some 2 airborne aircraft carriers, also known as the Arsenal Bird. We have one that's called Liberty, and the other one is called Justice. That's such American names, right? OSA thought having 2 airborne aircraft carriers that are able to carry over 80 UAVs, known as the MQ-101, would be a very safe measure that no one would mess with them. And of course, these weapons would never be used against them, because they better put some good firewall and antivirus. As you can expect, the Kingdom of Erusia wasn't too happy with OSA just building several military bases around their borders and pulling some troops from all across the continent just to patrol the area. So they thought, well, we better make some good pranks here. And so the Kingdom of Erusia declared a surprise war against the Ocean Federation with a prank that will surpass Pearl Harbor. So think about it. How can a country so small like Erusia be able to take on a superpower like the Ocean Federation, who has countless aircraft carriers, a large air force, and a large army? Here's what they did. So basically, in the years before the war, Erusia invested heavily into drones. They have even the MQ-99, which is this drone right here, that is modeled after the real-life Barracuda drone. So, because Erusia is this small country, they have to go to some unconventional tactics. Basically, they hid their drones inside shipping containers that were transported via trains, trucks, or ships close to Osia's military infrastructure. That is, naval ports, army bases, or military airfields. So basically what they could do is just deploy the drones out of the containers because they had rocket propulsion to take off, and strike the targets very fast, and Osia had no chance to defend themselves on this surprise attack. And that is how Erusia managed to give some heavy damage to Osia, who is a country located in another continent, because
modern problems require modern solutions.
And their attack was so heavy, they were able to destroy almost all of Osia's aircraft carriers, and basically Osia didn't have a chance to react because it's like Erusia just spawning behind them when in the match. It's kind of unfair, but their tactic worked, and they were also able to capture their international space elevator. Oh yeah, and do you remember those flying aircraft carriers that Osia put so much time and effort on them that they would protect the International Space Elevator and would totally not be used against them? Well, Erusia got in possession of them. I don't know how, but maybe they hired hackermen and they are now controlling the Arsenal birds, the two of them. And it's funny because Osia did not learn their lesson, because the same thing happened in Ace Combat 5 where they had their super weapons stolen. Congratulations, Osia! That's what happens when you don't upgrade your antivirus. And so all of this happens at the very beginning of the game, so you don't have time to tell Osia to renew their antivirus subscription. And in Ace Combat 7 you'll be playing as Trigger, a faceless protagonist that doesn't really speak, he's just there chilling. He is part of the Mage Squadron of the Osean Air Force, and he was actually deployed to the continent of Usia because Osia is so imperialist, they gotta patrol the world, the world police, basically. So he was there during the declaration of war, and he's all caught up in the Blitzkrieg. In the mission 1 of the game, basically your main task is to take off and intercept some enemy bombers that are attacking your airbase, which is the Fort Grace airbase. And so after you finish mission 1, you're gonna get a cutscene that explains in a slightly more professional tone the whole war situation between Erusia and Osia. And you're gonna see how bad it was for Osia just because of the whole Blitzkrieg thing. And basically after that is gonna be your mission to regain the control of the International Space Elevator on a counterattack against the Erusian forces, who are able to occupy most of the Usean continent. Now here's where things get a little bit complicated because I can't tell too much about the story without spoiling the game, so let me try to simplify. Mission 2 is an air-to-ground operation where you have to retake an airbase, and that's as much as I'm going to talk about Mission 2. There's something very interesting but that has not been shown to the public before. You're going to see in Mission 2. And in Mission 3 is probably the mission you guys have seen the most because a lot of gameplay has been posted. In Mission 3, that mission takes place over the Choppingburg Rainforest, where your operation, or your objective there, is just to regain air superiority and help out an allied squadron who is fighting in that region. And so the Mage Squadron is gonna arrive in the airspace and destroy the remaining Erusian aircraft. Now the thing is, when something is too easy in Ace Combat, that's because you can get a mission update. And the mission update of Mission 3 is that you're gonna face the Arsenal bird. Remember that unmanned aircraft carrier that Osia built before the war and it's now being used against them? Yeah, that's gonna suck, because the Arsenal bird is capable of carrying 80 UAVs, and they're gonna keep throwing them at you and your allies to the point where your allies are so damaged you're gonna have to escort them back to their base. And the thing is, you cannot destroy the Arsenal bird in that mission because it also has its shield. It's gonna be activated there. So the ending of Mission 3, I can't tell you yet because there's something that has not been shown to the public yet, but I'll tell you one thing. I finished the mission and my hands were shaking after that, and I don't have Parkinson. There's something very special in the ending of that mission. Now, even though you're not able to destroy the Arsenal bird at the end of Mission 3, if you think about it, things are still going relatively well. Osia is gaining ground, getting closer to this International Space Elevator, but after Mission 3, some very interesting things happen. Trigger, the protagonist, is kicked out of the Mage Squadron and gets thrown into the Spare Squadron. Now think about it, because Spare is quite an interesting name. So the Spare Squadron is actually comprised of prisoners of war, and they are therefore expendable, hence Spare. And basically they are just acting as cannon fodder and flying aircraft into the most dangerous missions where they're not really expected to come back. Now you may ask yourself then, why is Osea using a expendable squadron comprised of, expendable pilots? And that's because that's how Stranger works. Like literally there's so many airplanes in Stranger, it's like, it's fine, it's a couple $1 million plane, but we have so many of them, just throw them in there like paper airplane. Now, you might ask yourself, why did Trigger get kicked out? Like what happened there? And this is probably the heaviest spoiler in this video. If you want to skip the spoiler, you can go to this timer right here. Are you sure? Are you sure you're not gonna skip? Okay, if you're still here, it's because you want to know. You want to know this stuff. So apparently what happened is Trigger killed the former president. Yeah, that was kind of really bad. Like, how do you kill a former president? I don't know how exactly, but it ends up that Trigger apparently killed President Harley, who used to be the president back in Ace Combat 5, because he is the only Osean president that we know. Something happened there, he killed the president, he got kicked out of Mage Squadron, and he was sent to Spare Squadron. The interesting thing about Spare Squadron is that all the pilots, they have strikes on their planes. And Trigger, since he did the worst thing of all, he has 3 strikes. While all the other planes, as you're gonna see in the trailer or in the gameplay videos posted already, they have either 1 or 2. So it's gonna be interesting to see what did the other pilots do to be sent to this this expendable squadron. And now that Trigger gets sent to the Spare Squadron, he gets to participate in pretty much the worst missions as possible. And even the AWACS changes to reflect that. Instead of being accompanied by AWACS Skykeeper from the early missions in the game, we now have the upgraded AWACS Bandog, the best AWACS in the game.
Spare 15 is broken through the thunderclouds. Nice word for a dumbass. Why are we risking our lives to wipe someone else's ass? Start complaining when you can keep your own nose clean. Quit scratching your ass and approach the enemy.
I should totally do a compilation of AWACS Bandog, because if you have him, you need no enemies. So, what we know so far are Mission 6 and Mission 7, because we have seen a little bit of their gameplay on YouTube, and they also are the missions from the demos. So in Mission 6, what we know so far is it's a ground battle. So basically you have to destroy the ground targets. You destroy some of them, you get a mission update, and there are some drones that appear. That's all we know so far. And Mission 7 is also a very important mission. This is called First Contact, because that is the first time we're gonna meet the main antagonist of the game, this old man, Mihai. So if you don't recall, Mission 7 is the one with the thunderstorms and the rock pillars. Basically in that mission you are sent in to rescue an allied reconnaissance unit, and basically you gotta be your cannon fodder there, just put yourself between your allies and the enemies. That's how it is. And what is gonna happen at the end of the mission is that you're gonna battle against the old man Mihai. But what we know is that both of the pilots survive at the end. I don't know exactly what it is, because the ending of Mission 7 has never been shown to the public. So that's kind of where I have all the information for the missions thus far. Since I've covered all the missions we know thus far, let's talk about the characters of the game, starting with our favorite old man, Mihai. Something I cannot pronounce because it's a Hungarian name. Or you can also call Chilaj, kind of-ish. So this guy is an Erusian pilot who is working on somewhat of an scientific experiment. If you notice, he flies the Russian Sukhoi 30. It's a 2-seater aircraft, but behind him there is no other pilot, there is no co-pilot. Instead you're gonna see like this little ball, which no one really knows exactly what it is, but it seems like a sensor so he can teach the AI how to fly planes. It is believed that he is an experiment to, improve the drones that Erusia is making. Although Mihai has a little bit of a problems, because he seems that his health is not doing so well. He's like, oh boy, this body is getting old. Because it is implied, at least in the trailers that we've seen thus far, that he is a veteran pilot who has fought in many wars in the past. We don't know exactly what wars or who he fought against or how so, but this guy has some experience. Working together with Mihai is Dr. Schroeder. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. I do not speak German. This guy apparently is the one conducting the tests together with Mihai. He is the main scientist. But there is some speculation based on his name that he's not from Erusia. This is not confirmed yet. But people believe that he's a scientist from a foreign country that was very involved in past games quite a few times. And also on the Erusian side of the story, we have the princess, the head of the government, Princess Rosa Cosette de Lis, who was the one who declared war against the Ocean Federation. You're gonna see her in a lot of the trailers. She seems to be gonna play a major role in the story. And of course, I can tell you already, best waifu of all times, even though the game is not released, but I believe in her. And the last main character I should talk about is Avery Mead. She has quite an interesting story because before the war started, she was renovating or rebuilding an F-104 Starfighter to flying condition. It's quite an old plane. And when she was flying it, she ended up getting shot down by an Ocean F-15. And she survived, believe it or not. And she got sent to the Penal Squadron, which is that spare squadron that I mentioned before, where she is the maintenance girl to fix the planes. Because she's so good at maintenance, they had to make some use for her. And we also have Cupman, my favorite member of the spare squadron, because, I don't know, I just think he's funny. You're gonna fly together with him. Get used to it. Now, of course, there will be other characters in the game, but the ones I explained before are the main ones. The other characters you get to talk during the missions as your wingman, the base commander, and some other people. You're gonna see the radio comes. Ace Combat is very heavy on the dialogue. And so if I had to summarize the plot of Ace Combat 7, I would say the game would touch on a few different topics. First, of course, we have the war between humans and machines, you know, all the drone warfare with human pilots against unmanned aircraft. That's going to be a major point in the game, as you have seen in the trailers already. We also have to talk about fake news. It's going to be a major point in the game, because Ace Combat has a journalistic approach to the game, where basically you get to see what the people in that universe see on TV. So, are you seeing the Ocean side or are you seeing the Erusian side? Which side is correct? What are the different interpretations of the facts that actually happen? That's gonna be a main thing in the game that actually the same writer, he did very well in Ace Combat 4. If you're more interested, check my videos on Ace Combat 4. Another topic is gonna get a little bit philosophical, such as what is a nation? There's some kind of a philosophy on what constitutes like a group of people, and is it fair to declare war on this other group of people, this other nation? Ace Combat can get pretty philosophical at times, and that's gonna come back in Ace Combat 7. Besides national sovereignty, we also might get a little bit into space and space warfare, because some scenes of the trailers suggest that the satellites are being destroyed for the purposes of warfare. So the game might touch a little bit on that, and also maybe civilians dying or being protected at war and what measures are being taken. This is something that Ace Combat 7 touches on. Some minor details on the story I should touch on is that Ace Combat is pretty heavy on super weapons. You already seen them with the Arsenal Bird. We're gonna see more of it with the return of Stonehenge, which is an anti-asteroid railgun, but that can be used as an anti-aircraft gun. Now the thing was, you don't know if it's gonna be an enemy or a friendly, if you have to protect it or destroy it. And usually Ace Combat has a final boss super weapon, but no information on that as well. You also have the space elevator that is incompatible with future games like Ace Combat 3, which is a sequel. So it's very interesting to know if the space elevator is going to be destroyed in this game or not. The thing with Ace Combat 3 is that it's such a different game. The whole geopolitical situation is different. Nations exist, but they're not as powerful. The world is ruled by corporations. So we might see the end of nations or governments as they are in the real world today in Ace Combat 7 and have the corporations take over the world. Also related to Ace Combat 3, which takes place in 2040, it's a pretty futuristic game. There's gonna be a relationship between a father in Ace Combat 7 and a character from Ace Combat 3. I don't know who it is yet. This is information from one of the Japanese interviews that the devs made, but there's gonna be quite a few connections to other games. So if you are a fan, you should be looking forward to it. And so this is what I have to say about Ace Combat 7's story mode. I hope this video has helped you new players to get a little bit some more information and to understand what the heck is going on, because it can be especially hard for a universe you've never took a look into it. So you get to see, a little bit of the context of what you see in the trailers or the gameplay and know a little bit what is going on. Now, don't be scared. I know it sounds like you have to know the previous games to know all the references. You don't. Don't worry about that. You just need to have a fun time. Ace Combat 7, its story is pretty standalone. You're still gonna be able to enjoy it. Way better than my explanation here. I took a little bit of a peek into the game. It's looking pretty good. Now, please, guys, I only have one request for you, which is don't watch the entire playthrough of Ace Combat 7 on YouTube. Instead, play the game for yourself for the first time. The first playthrough of Ace Combat can be quite a powerful experience. This is the reason why I'm doing YouTube for Ace Combat, because Ace Combat back in the days, they were quite powerful in my whole life. So that is my recommendation for you. Play the game, don't watch just all the videos. And if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to my channel and liking, sharing the video. That helps me a lot. And I have a pretty cool spoiler policy from when Ace Combat 7 gets released. You can check more information about here, but if you subscribe, I won't spoil the game right in front of you. It's pretty safe. Do not worry. So that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you, Ace Combat fan. What'd you think of the video? Very informative? I think so. Let's see what we learned, what lessons we learned, and what information we just learned. So if I was a world with, let's think, a world with no boundaries. They were doing the wrong thing for the right reason. As for you, and a country should fight for peace. I know that. Not for. Let me rephrase that. Sorry. Members of their soldiers should fight for peace, not for their country. More for peace. More for peace in their own country. Because after all, I one day dream of a world where everyone is in peace, everyone is in peace, living in peace and harmony. But as for drones, they are very useful. They are very useful, especially if your country's small and not that armed. But they do have a weakness. All it just takes is one good hack, and you've lost them, as seen in Call of Duty Black Ops 2. But I did like the idea of a peacekeeping force, especially the UN militarized this peacekeeping force to represent, called the United Nations Armed Forces. My idea. I called it. Copyright, Bridget. I'll be sure to share that with them if I live through this war. Anyway, President President Harley, they say it's implied that he died in 2019 by Trigger, but I don't believe. But I don't think it was. I don't think he really did kill him. I think he was set up or something. If you know what I mean. But no information is known about that. That's, there are many. If I forgot one, if I got a lesson or information we learned, I'll put it in the comments down below. But anyway, before we get to the game, let me talk. I got in. Let me talk. Before we go to the trailer reaction, let me just talk really quick about the fact that I owned a few 3 Ace Combat games. Ace Combat 4. No wait, let me rephrase that. I played 3. Ace Combat 4, Ace Combat 5, Ace Combat 0. I owned Ace Combat 4 once, but after playing, but then I gave it to a friend. I borrowed Ace Combat 5 from a friend, then gave it back to him when I was finished. I rented Ace Combat 0, and then returned it after it was done. And I think the reason I never bought the whole series is because my policy. If I get one, I had to get them all. And because of Ace Combat 6 being on the Xbox 360 and not the PS system, I had to I think I just gave them up. I couldn't do it. I have no idea why they did that. I probably never will. And if I play, so as for me, he said play the game. I won't buy it. I'll probably just rent it. And then, oh, I don't know if I mentioned it, but make sure you check out his channel. Make sure you check out his channel, Ace Combat Fan. I'll probably put a link down below, if I can. Anyway, let's get to the enough of this bickering. Let's get to the trailer reaction. PlayStation.
Peggy 12.
Hold on, folks. Let me fix something real quick. There we go. Alright. Just for the time being. After all. That's good. Now let's get started. Now we're with PlayStation.
Peggy 12.
Bandai Namco Entertainment. Ace Combat 20th Anniversary. Aces even challenged the Triska.
Does the color of the sky mean anything special to you? It does to me. A hell of a lot. When I close my eyes, the sky in my dreams is a deep, dark blue.
The Kingdom of Erusia has declared war on the Ocean Federation. I repeat.
Bogey approaching fast from the rear. Did the jailer know about the shitstorm he was sending us into?
Penal units are just pawns. What's with this guy? That's an SU-30.
We don't want to mess with this guy.
All we can do is fly away as fast as we can.
That's the antagonist
So
right
you
there.
simply watch things unfold from a distance.
Yeah. I mean, who would have ever thought that I'd just go and follow him straight into the enemy squadron like that?
He really is foolish, isn't he?
Yep, sure is.
No, it's not.
Soul 1, what's your status?
Well, I'm feeling a little excited.
Trigger's taking the beast head on. I see the mark on his tail. You defile this country. As long as you're here, this country will never know peace.
Yet what is a nation?
I don't even have a country to call home.
I wonder which path you would choose when looking at Harlan's mirror.
Gargoyle 3 to battle. Ocean fighters do not attack. Shit. I mean, why are we being made to do this?
Yeah, I know. I'm heading into hell. Whatever. Adios, you damn fool.
Adjusting angle. Go! Aim for the one with 3 strikes. Thunderbolt, no fear!
Fire! Hit, damn it!
10 seconds until the united attack on the Arsenal bird.
There are even rumors of penal units turning on their former allies.
Rumors. What kept the world relatively sane up to that point had been free-flowing data and information. Now, those were gone.
Everybody, give this attack everything you've got. Fire!
What other choice do we have? I know. All aircraft, form up on trigger, nice and tight. Stick with trigger and you'll make it.
Yep.
That's the aircraft my grandfather told me about.
There are pilots like you in every generation, and I've felled every last one of them.
Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Trigger, can you hear me? All survivors, respond.
Can anyone hear me? That aircraft needs to be taken care of.
Can you hear me? Pilot with the 3 strikes.
Ace Combat 7, Skies Unknown. January 18th, 2019, PS4.
PS4 for the players.
Very interesting. Got the information about the thing? Very interesting about the game. Now, if you want, now I'm not gonna go into this kind of video right here. It's 15 things you need to know before you buy. I'll let you do that on your own time. I'll let you do that on your own time. But anyway. It was great. The trailer was great, and I think the game's gonna be cool, especially with the graphics and all. Very interesting. Now let's go with the question of the day. What's your favorite game of the Ace Combat franchise, and why? Well, let me give, and I'll give an example. I think my favorite game is Ace Combat 0, because of the guy called the Demon Lord. In fact, I wanted to join the Air Force, but become a Demon Lord myself. You know, well, not literally, but you know the name and all, to be that skilled like him, Cypher. But due to what I was born with, I can't. And even in this war zone, I had to force to take up arms. Ugh. Sorry. But anyway, that's my favorite. Because he's the best. Because Cypher's the best of the best of the best of the best of the best. Or just the best of the best. And I want... Anyway, I'm gonna try and do more. Anyway, veteran. Anyway, the veterans told me that there are other ways to serve your country. I thought I would never been able to, but apparently they did. Apparently that was my good news I got from post high school. That's when I learned the truth about I couldn't join. There are other ways to serve than just joining the U.S. Armed Forces. And I'm going to serve my country by becoming a politician. If I survive this, and become president of the and eventually by around 2050 become president of the United States. If I survive this, that is. I know my mother joined the Air Force, but she was a nurse. My grandfather was in the Army during World War II on the Eastern Front. He was a cook. Although he took a secret with him to the grave. After the war, he became racist. But the good thing is, he never passed his belief on to his family. He just kept it to himself, which I wish politicians in the U.S. government would do. You either keep your personal feelings to yourself and do your job, or there's the door. That's an old saying I just came up with. I know my mother's a nurse. I said that. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. Let me tell you the story. Before I end this thing, let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story of how I joined the what made me decide to join the Air Force. It all started when I got the game Ace Combat 4 and that's my story. What do you think? That's my story, because playing the games inspired me so much that I wanted to join the U.S. Air Force. Like my mother. But not as a fighter pilot. But not as a nurse, but as a fighter pilot. I even had a dream. I had a backup dream of becoming a sniper too. After playing games like Silent Scope. Does that matter? Man, I keep getting high scores on that game all the time. In fact, the latest game I played was recently, and I got a high score of. Oh no! They're back. Oh. Oh man, the bombers are back. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like. I gotta end this video. So thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Comment down below, and I'll see you. And if you like this video, and want to share it with your friends, I'd really appreciate it. But until then, I got a deck of cover. So I'll see you next time. If there is a next time. Bye. Almost forgot the most important piece. Turn off the light. Turn off the lights to make sure the bombers can't find you. Okay. Bye this time.